I will wait until the recording has started. You go right ahead.
Recording in progress.
There we go. Okay, with 3:30. Thank you for coming to the June 5th Regional Board meeting. And I want to recognize that we're holding the meeting on the traditional territory of the Mohammed Nation. We have an agenda in front of us. I don't know of any changes to said agenda, so if somebody would like to move it. What's that?
Yes, so we had the addition of item 8.10 from today's meeting. That was elevated.
Right, we had an item from the Finance Committee meeting elevated to today's board meeting. And the time constraints.
Printed copy of the electronic version has been updated.
Okay, so we have the amended agenda. Would somebody like to move approval? Sir Lennox and Elliott. Discussion to none, all in favor. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Minutes of the May 22nd, 2024 meeting. Are there any errors or omissions? No hands. Can I get motion to adopt? Director McCormick and Director Elliott. Thank you. All in favor? None, all approved. Thank you. Motion carried. No delegations, no inquiries, no unfinished business. And we have 4 items of correspondence. There is one item that has already been moved into the business arising from correspondence. And item 6.3, I was wondering if somebody would entertain the board writing a letter to Debbie Malthouse concerning the Saltery Bay Boat Launch, informing her about whose responsibility that is. And in other situations, I would probably just suggest that a staff member contact them, but if we have an actual letter, it may be handy to have, should we have discussion with the provincial body responsible for the boat launch. So somebody like to use that? Yep. Thank you. Director Lennox seconded. Any discussion? Okay, Director Lennox.
Yeah, just briefly, Chair, this is much needed out there. I have had the pleasure or displeasure of trying to navigate a boat around there, and it is dangerous. So anything we can do to get support for that improvement is much needed. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Goodborn.
Yeah, concur with Director Lennox. I also concur with the letter that, boat launches are a much needed asset for our community. And also, when it comes to emergency response and management and wildfire and things like that, having additional boat launches is a huge asset to the community because, there's only so many ways out. And just a little tidbit of information I found out last year was apparently that boat launch was installed by the Powder Rod and Gun Club way back in the day. Of course, that was just back when folks could grab some wheelbarrows and get some cement and pour it in, and everything was good to go. And now, of course, as we see with Inland Lake, BC Parks is a little less flexible. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment that I have actually met with a representative for BC Parks down there. We have this body has sent a letter in the past advocating for improvements to be made. Let's just keep piling it on. Yeah. So no other discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? Sorry. Mr. Devereaux has his hand up.
Yes, Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Yes, Chair. I just wanted to let you know that I had already contacted Miss Malthouse or Mrs. Malthouse and gave her the contacts for BC Parks and let her know what the regional district's authority is over that area and stuff. And so she has contacted BC Parks already.
Okay, thanks very much. I apologize. Dr. Elliott, please go ahead.
So it was very timely. Mr. Devereaux's comments actually addressed my questions that I had. Was for the benefit of myself and the public, who exactly is the jurisdiction and what is the situation there. And so Mr. Devereaux has answered those questions, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so seeing no other hands, I'll call the question. All in favor? None opposed, motion carries. I have to apologize. I kind of leapt over item 7.1. Again, we just did 7.1 to the old 7.1 now the 7.2. Is that how it should?
Yes,
Yeah. You pulled it out. It should have went second.
It should have gone second. So we have a recommendation here. Would somebody like to move?
So moved.
Gisborne, thank you very much. Seconded by Director Fall. Any discussion? Dearborn?
Yeah, I've attended the number of sessions around modernizing the Local Government Act. It's a much needed piece of legislation that needs to be updated. For anyone watching, one of the things that always came up was it back in the late 90s, the province said, okay, we're going to update the community charter, which they did. And oh, don't worry, the Local Government Act is we're going to do that one next. And of course, local governments and regional districts for the last 20 years have been saying, hey, when are we actually going to get to work on the Local Government Act? And the province just kind of keeps kicking that ball down the road. And for those that don't know the Local Government Act, there's quite a bit of things which say, well, you know, this references that section and that section references this section and that part has been repealed. And it's kind of been a Frankenstein of legislation. And it would be nice to actually get it, you know, kind of rewritten. But I'd also express concern that the province lately has been introducing a lot of changes based on what works in the Lower Mainland. And there's a lot of things in the Local Government Act that are designed to protect rural electoral areas from, you know, having specific powers that are specifically related to municipalities. So I'm in support of this motion, but I'm also keen to, you know, what is it, Al Sebring would always say, you know, be careful of the unintended consequences. So I'll keep an eye on that one, and I hope all other directors do as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And just for anybody who is watching or has read through the agenda, it references a few documents. Those are attached at the end of the agenda in the FYI section. So seeing no other hands up, all in favor? Not opposed, motion carries. Consent agenda. Here's an opportunity to pull anything from said consent agenda. Seeing no hands, would somebody like to move the consent agenda? Director McCormick, Director Gisborne. I guess no discussion on that. So all in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Just for the information of public and people who may not have gotten a refresh agenda, there was an additional item 8.1.0 in the consent agenda with attachment on the previous agenda of the finance committee.
Great. Okay, thanks very much. No resolutions removed. So we are to resolutions 10.1 RCMP objectives. Somebody like to move the first one, Director Lennox. Thanks. Seconded by McCormick. Any discussion? Director Dowd.
I'm probably going to vote against this because of the same reason I voted against it. At the committee stage is, you know, I would like to see local agencies be able to hire additional staff. I don't think that they're not doing that because they haven't been asked to. I think if they don't have additional staff, it's because either they can't afford it because they don't have enough funding that they get from other sources, or that they simply can't find the people to do it. So I'm not sure that this is the most effective way to get additional staff, and just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you very much. Director Fall.
I'd like to put forward an amendment actually to address partly Director Dote's concern. It may or may not satisfy Director Dote, but I think it satisfies the concern I have to. So my amendment is to change the word requesting to recommending.
Okay, it's an easy amendment. Do I have a seconder? Any discussion on the amendment? Seems pretty straightforward, so we'll just vote on it. All in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed. So we have the main motion that we have to deal with. Any discussion on the main motion as amended? Seeing none. All in favor? Any opposed? If they're not opposed, motion carries. Item 2. Would somebody like to move that?
Moved.
Thank you, Director Gisborne, seconded by Director Lennox. Any discussion? Director Fall.
I would like to also make an amendment to this one, and that based on discussion we had last time, and add the word prior to invest, to replace the word invest to the word increase investments. So imploring the provincial government to increase investment in treatment options. So we're not implying that there is no investment, but we're wanting them to enhance it. So that's the amendment.
Makes sense. Seconded by anybody? Director McCormick. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, motion carries. Okay, back to the main motion. Is there any discussion on the amended motion? Seeing none? Oh, sorry, Director Elliott.
Sorry. So for my liking, the motion is worded in a kind of non-direct manner and includes a lot of flowery language that are not helping figure out what to do. Things like comfortable and feeling, all of that stuff. And so I'm not actually in favor of this particular motion because it isn't direct. It's not very direct in what it is we're asking for. We're asking for increased investment, but all of that other stuff at the end is all just not succinct enough for me, for my liking.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Directors Elliott and Doubt are opposed. Motion carries. Down to the third motion. Board directs staff to come back to a future meeting with information regarding options available under Division 5, Regulation of Animals of Local Government. If somebody can move that one. I'll move it. Do I have a seconder? Director Elliott, thank you very much. Any discussion?
I got a question. So is this motion, because this is under RCMP objectives, is this motion to ask for the staff report to come back with options about, you know, regulations for empowering the RCMP to deal with, you know, dangerous dogs and that kind of thing, or regulation of animals? Or is this motion to direct staff to come back with a report on us taking on that responsibility?
I would think it would include any options, but I'll ask the CAO if he has a comment on that.
Through the chair, maybe we should ask the original mover, because I don't believe this was a recommended action. I think this may have been a motion made at the table to bring the report back. I don't believe the reports originally said anything of that nature. So with that, I wouldn't know what the actual answer to the question is. So I will suspect that it'll be a robust report that comes back.
Yeah, I believe I was the mover of the motion, but I'm not. Do you have that?
I mean, I could search for it.
Let's take a moment and see.
I was at the May 22nd meeting. Is that correct? At the committee of the whole?
Yeah.
We had a very long time. And that we did want to do something.
I would imagine that would.
I just want to know what we're doing. And from the sounds of it, so does staff.
Oh, too slow.
I didn't want to break the computer.
So that was Director Brander or Chair Brander and Director Paul.
Yeah, so when I made the motion initially, I was just asking for a report on what options are available. Not exclusively RCMP, but just what options are available. We've had a lot of comments from the public the last couple of years about dangerous dogs. And I think it would behoove us to at least show that we are looking into it as to what our options are. Director Dowd, I saw your hand up, and then Director Gisborne.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the motion that we actually have in front of us, and it's pretty straightforward. The staff come back with a report with future meeting with information regarding options available under Division 5. And that, you know, I guess there are a wide choice of options to, you know, to doing nothing, to employing a series of bylaw officers for each electoral area and buying vehicles and all that stuff. That would be one option. And another option is doing nothing, and whatever there is in between. I think there'd be a wide variety of it. Well, if we're going to ask staff to do this, we should expect them to spend some time and come back with a long list of options.
Okay, thank you, Director Gisborne.
Yeah, item 8.4 on the agenda that we passed as a block was that the board enter into the minutes and file the report titled Cadet Regional District Approach to Dog Control Issues. We already got a report that outlined the things that we can do and the things that the RCMP can do. So this is one of those kind of situations I see where, you know, we start making decisions, we ask for staff reports, we want another staff report, and then years down the line, people start going like, hey, now we're being presented with some fairly large, you know, costs to the taxpayers. And this is kind of one of those first steps. And it's like, you know, they say death by 1,000 cuts. This is taxation by 1,000 approvals, I guess you could say. And I like the staff report that you already got. It outlines what the RCMP can do. It outlines, you know, what farmers and property owners can do. If we're gonna, you know, go down this path of saying like, okay, let's consider animal control officers or bylaw officers. Like, I just want to hear from the rest of the board is like, is there actually appetite to go down that road to get animal control officers and to actually go down that? Otherwise, we're asking for another staff report to look into something that we've already got the information. And I'm just concerned about, you know, how much money we're going to keep spending on something where at the end of the day, we might end up just saying, you know, this is going to cost a bunch of money and we don't want to do it. In which case, why spend the money now?
Okay, Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. So to clarify where this motion came from, it's actually on coming from option 2 in the original report, and that's on page 7 of 26 of the report in our agenda. It's on page 47 of the sequential page of our agenda, and there's all those options that a lot of these recommendations came from. And option 2 said direct staff to investigate creating new services for noise, nuisance, and dangerous dogs, and one of those was pulled out and made by Director Brander and seconded by myself, that to come back with the one in our before us here, to come back with to a future meeting with information regarding options. So, I guess I'll have a question, because on one hand, I think we've had enough comments from the public about dogs that it seems useful for us to do something, which is at least explore what the options are, if nothing more than to be able to explain to the public why we choose or choose not to have a service. And if we don't have information before us why we don't have a dog control service, that's a little bit harder to explain than we don't have, if we don't have a dog control service, it's for these reasons, cost, for example. And one of the options I would assume, and I'll look to our CAO to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe one of the options before us would be to do nothing. And now that balances with the concerns raised by Director Gisborne. If we aren't, do we want the report even if we wouldn't entertain a service? And in my view, given the concerns that have been raised from the public, it could still be useful. But the question I have through the chair, if I might, is this an onerous task for staff? Because our CAO just said a fulsome report, and is this something that would take a lot of time? And if we do want to proceed with it, that I would suggest that it's not on the front burner. It's something that happens when staff are able to find time to do it.
Through the chair, it's not a time-sensitive item by any means, in my mind. I don't think it would be that onerous to create a report, but I think the benefit to everybody is that it should have enough information in it, that it will be educational, not only for yourselves, which is maybe unfair because you're closer to the pulse and understand the Local Government Act a lot better than the general public, but it can be used as an educational source for the general public so that they understand why it is that we may or may not have dangerous dog curtailment or officers taking care of them.
Okay.
Thank you. And if I may just have a bit of a follow-up, and that's that, it would be almost inconceivable for me that there would be a regional dog control service or animal control service on Lasqueti, for example, because how would that even work? How do the people get here? but nonetheless, dog control issues have come up on Lasqueti as well. And I think it's useful, when people call you and they say, hey, I'm concerned, what can you do about it? What can the regional district, or doesn't the regional district do this? I think it would be really useful if we had a report that included information that could help educate the public about why we do or don't have a service, or why we're not doing one now, or why we're moving towards one. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Director Elliott.
Thank you. So I was remembering some of the conversation that we had and the RCMP's comments around lack of enforcement tools. So even if you didn't have a service and bylaw officers, if you actually had bylaws, the police can enforce those bylaws and have additional tools that may be less onerous than going straight to the courts and making a case for dangerous dogs and all of the other things. And so there are options for creating bylaws that do not include creating a service or hiring extra people to enforce them, because police can enforce bylaws as well. And so I remember that being a part of that conversation as well. It might make up part of the options that would come forward and help us understand whether that would be helpful or not.
Okay, Dr. Gisborne.
Director Lennox hasn't spoken.
Yeah, I just to add to the discussion, I mean, I have one opinion, of course, but I'm wondering, I've seen this, the original staff report. It was pretty clear to me what our options are, and at our current stage, I'm wondering if this motion says Division 5 of the regulations. Is there any, any more information that is needed? And I guess is the question I have to staff, is flushing out Division 5 specifically was part of the report. I don't have it in front of me, but it was referenced in the report, and saw some options. And again, I think I know the appetite of folks in my area, but does Division 5 need to be explored more? Is my question, because that's what this is talking about.
I guess that was a question for staff.
It is, but I don't know, without doing the work.
I'm sure. I myself don't remember speaking to Division 5, but in this other report, it may have. But Division 5 basically starts off with, you have to have a service, and it goes all the way to the end of.
So it is the details.
Where it gets to, the police officers have that ability. So again, I'll fall back on it. Could be educational for everyone.
All right.
Okay, Director Gisborne.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, taking a look at the staff report, and thank you for Director Fall for outlining that this motion is really option 2, and I'll just read out what option 2 is so everyone is on the same page. Quote, direct staff to consider the implication and feasibility of developing an animal control bylaw for the Cathet Regional District, which would include the subsequent hiring of new bylaw control officers and securing of impoundment services. Now, what I've been hearing is the city doesn't even have a pound. So I think it was kind of funny that, the electoral areas might have potentially more animal control regulations than the municipality, which is kind of backwards from how the community usually thinks about these things. And when I read that, I see a big cost. And I have had members of the public asking me about dangerous dogs and all kinds of services. And one of the questions I always respond with is they're like, hey, does the regional district do this? And my answer is, well, we don't currently, but how much would you like to pay for it? And they go, oh. And when they see that there is going to be a cost associated.
For a second.
Sorry, Director Gisborne, but I need to interrupt, because the option that you're reading from is the wrong report. You're reading from the report authored by Sarah West. My report was RCMP objectives, and that's the item that this one is following under, RCMP objectives. And I believe the report you're reading from is option 2 under that regional district approach to dog control issues. So I think we need to bring it back to my report and option 2.
Okay, then can I ask for clarification then from Director Fall as to which page option 2 that he was referencing is on? Because I thought he was referencing what was previously on the agenda.
If I may, Chair, so the motion on the table is the motion on the table, but it's on page, the bottom of page 7 of 26 of the report that the CIO referred to, which is on page 47 of 241, well, on the old agenda that I'm looking at in the RCMP objectives.
Did you have another comment here, CAO? No. Okay, Director Dowd.
I understand everybody's referring to various reports we've had in the past. But the motion I'm looking at is the actual motion that's been moved and is on today's agenda, which is very open, talks about coming back with a report to a future meeting with information regarding options available under Division 5 regulations of animals under the Local Government Act. That's really straightforward, really simple. All the other reports that everybody's talked about can be included in that. I think it would be an extensive report on all of the options that might happen. And then we can decide as a board whether we want to have a service and how much that might cost and do that. But I think that, you know, it's really simple. It's number 3 in the package that we have in front of us. And that's all it is.
All right, thank you very much, Director Paul. You have something to add?
Yes, I have an amendment to put forward, and I think it's really to see whether the board wants to make this broader or narrower. So, and that the amendment is to add after the word options in the wording, the phrase including but not limited to options. So that the board would direct staff to come back to a future meeting with information regarding options, including but not limited to options available under Division 5 regulation of animal. So that if the board adopted that, that would make the report broader. If the committee the board prefers it to be more narrow, then this should fail.
Would somebody like to second that motion?
I will.
McCormick, thank you. Do we have any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment? I think that was unanimous, so motion carries. So back to the original motion.
Can we see the new motion now?
I did not type it out.
Regarding options available but not limited to.
Yes. So I have that the board directs staff to come back to a future meeting with information regarding options, including but not limited to, available under options available, but including but not limited to, under Division 5 regulations of animals of the Local Government Act.
Which is not restricting, it's not only Division 5, it's anything as well that may come into play. Director, I'm going to go Director McCormick. You haven't spoken yet. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. And I support this recommendation. There have been concerns expressed on Texada, a couple of attacks that required medical attention. And I think it behooves us to say, okay, these are the options. We may not want to do any one or others of those, but we might pick something out of that list that we can live with. So I would like to see the options, and I support the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. And Director Foss, saw your hand up
again? Yeah, I'll be brief. I think it's just to make this report and make it clear that the report isn't to include a range of options, and also make clear to the public who may be watching, this is not a step towards necessarily having a new bylaw, a new service. This is to explore those options. We'll get a report, and it may range across all the options that we've looked at, which might be nothing, bylaws, service, costs. We'll see what it all is, and then we can have something that will be useful for us and the public. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So I think we've gone around the table quick. Good one. One more last thing to say. Anything new to add?
Yeah. So I'd like to thank the CAO for clarifying which report we were talking about. One of the questions I have, though, is the motion says Division 5. And when you look at the Local Government Act, it is broken into parts and then divisions. So there's a whole bunch of Division 5s in the Local Government Act, and regulation of animals is actually Part 22, Division 1. So I'm wondering where is Division 5 in the Local Government Act, because there's a whole bunch of Division 5s. And none of the Division 5s I could find are regulation of animals, because regulation of animals is Part 22, Division 1. So I just want to make sure our motion is referencing the correct Local Government Act.
I believe the CAO is looking it up right now. While he's doing that, Director McCormick, if you would like to comment.
We could remove the words under Division 5 and simply have it available under regulation of animals of the local government act.
That's very true.
To eliminate the division.
There's move an amendment.
Sure.
There's a seconder for the amendment. If you did one. Any discussion on the amendment, which can you just to clarify what it is, we're just removing, striking out Division 5 regulations of animals.
Sorry,
No.
Division 5.
Just Division 5, sorry. Okay.
Leave regulations of animals.
Right.
and I'd just like to clarify, I made a mistake. That part is in relation to municipalities. It's actually Part 9, Division 5 for regional districts, so I think that helps.
Okay, so it was Division 5.
It's Division 5, but it's Part 9. Well, district-specific powers.
Direct it out.
I think our world would be a lot less complicated if we just repeated this amendment, because Director Gisborne has told us that the motion makes sense without the amendment.
Okay, sounds good.
You know, we seem to be going down a path of changing every word one at a time. And we're likely, in my view, to end up with something that nobody understands.
Okay, so let's call the question then. All in favor, or sorry, Director Elliott?
I respectfully disagree. Part 9, Division 5 would be more clear, or removing the numbers altogether. Because quite right, there's more than one Division 5, so.
Okay. CAO, you have a comment?
Yes, through the chair. The LGA actually has their subheader title here, Division 5 - regulation of animals. I read here under Division 5 - regulation of animals. I don't think there's any way to go wrong with that.
Probably no other Division 5.
Yeah.
No. All in favor of the amendment? Here's one. Anybody opposed to the amendment? I guess we have 2 in favor, because Director Lennox didn't raise his hand, and 5 opposed. We're back to the main motion as is. We've been around the table a lot, so let's just call the question. All in favor? Oh, let's see your hands here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor and opposed. Motion carries. No reports, bylaws, no new business, question period. Mr. Galinsky, are you online? Or do you have any questions?
I am online, Chair. Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's unclear to me what consent agenda 8.10 was, and I'm hoping that somebody can direct me to what that might be.
Right, it is the statement of financial information.
Oh,
It's carried over from the Finance Committee earlier today, but it had to be dealt with in a timely manner. So
I get that. I remember that at Finance Committee meeting, Chair, so that's clear to me now. Thank you very much for answering that question. That's all I had for you today.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, we have an in-camera session. Oh, would somebody like to move that? Gisborne.
Sure. I move the board move in camera, the meeting be closed to the public on the grounds that the subject matter to be considered relates to matters covered by the community charter under section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations, K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a regional district service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the board could be reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the regional district if they were held in public, and the consideration of whether a board meeting should be closed under a provision of this subsection or subsection 2.
Seconded by Director Lennox. Any discussion? All in favor? One opposed, motion carries.
This is a double-edged thing.
Are we recording?
Not yet.
Recording in progress.
Okay, thank you. We're back from our rise and report, and the board would like to rise and report that the Catholic Regional District will seek a part-time contract caretaker for the Skiddy Island Regional Park or parks and draft a letter for the chair to send to Don Dempster and Deb Perel, thanking them for their September 17th, 2023 letter. And with that, we've reached the end of our agenda, so we're adjourned. Thanks very much. Go enjoy the sun.
Yep,
Recording stopped.
gotta move that lawn after.